Welcome, John. So good to connect again. I know we met many years ago when you were at PayPal Ventures. So let me know about the new startup. It sounds really interesting.
Sure. So, Gravy is what is now known as payment orchestration, and essentially, it was born out of the frustration of having the same conversation over and over again with people selling things online. And the conversation was, you should add some cool functionality like PayPal or something provided by Plaid, and hearing back, yes, absolutely, we would love to do that, but it's going to take 2 years or it's going to take 8 months. And it's just getting frustrating because there's all this good stuff coming, which is great for helping the underserved, helping all kinds of areas, and accelerating payments that was essentially being stalled by this thing. So I dug into what is the thing? Why is this going so slowly? And it turns out that pretty much every retailer in the world has a payments team, and it starts as one person doing a connection to one PSP, so a Stripe or a Braintree, and then 6 months later they add PayPal, and 6 months later they go and add Buy Now Pay Later, and then they go international, and essentially end up building a custom in-house solution to deal with all of their different payment processes and suppliers. And the bigger you get, what traditionally people have been doing is adding more people to it. So you end up with these huge payment teams working on what is essentially custom code, in order to manage your payments, that becomes limiting the bigger you get. And the crazy thing is, everyone is doing it and they're all doing it independently. And essentially, they're building exactly the same thing. So I looked at it and said, let's just build that one thing. Let's just build that one product that allows a retailer to manage all of their different payment suppliers and how their payments route to them without needing an army of engineers to do that.
Good thinking. You've got the solution then. And so basically, talk a little bit more about that solution and how it's being taken up by other companies.
Yeah, so we were thinking about how to build this, we actually did a fair amount of talking to large retailers, and people around the world on what could it look like. And we heard again, as we one of the biggest questions: should we build this as a SaaS? Should we build a system you connect to and we just deal with it for you? And really, the larger the retailer, the more we heard, no, we're not going to rip and replace our entire payments infrastructure overnight, and especially replace it by a sort of early stage seed-funded startup.
Mm.
We need something that we can migrate over to over time, or build into what we have today to enhance it or grow it. And so, please come back with something that is a bit less painful than a rip and replace. So we built Gravy as a somewhere between a IaaS and a PaaS company. So we're essentially, we spin up a cloud, we spin up an instance of Gravy for each of our retailers in a sole tenancy fashion. Um, that allows them, everything has an API, everything will work with what they've got today, and allows them to basically have this tool and control it and run it as if it was their own.
And they don't have to have all those programmers to
Exactly.
handle payments.
Exactly.
That's fantastic. So it must be a massive cost saving for retailers. Is that correct? Are people giving you that feedback?
Well, there is a cost saving. Obviously, hiring payment engineers is hard. They're
Yeah.
quite rare. There's not a lot of them out there, especially hiring payment engineers with cloud experience is even harder. So there is
Mm.
that size, but I think like the massive saving that comes to retailers is the increase in speed that they have. I mean, COVID has come along,
Yeah.
and changed everything. Before COVID, as a retailer, probably 15% of your stuff was coming through e-commerce. Then along comes COVID. Suddenly, it's 100%. Those little speed bumps that you had in the road are now great big mountains, and everything that's wrong with your payment system is a problem. So us plugging in there just you know speeds up, enhances, it allows you to move quicker, allows you to add the cool new functionality your customers are asking for, and go international even faster.
And so is it mainly big retailers that is your market?
Yeah, so we work with mid-size and above. I kind of, my view on this is, look, if you're a small retailer selling in North America to North Americans, you don't need orchestration right now. You're fine with one of the PSPs in that space.
Yep.
I think when you get a bit bigger, and you start, going international, or you start getting to a point where having more than one PSP plugged into you makes sense, which is, once you get above 1,000 to 5,000 transactions a month, at that point, orchestration gets a lot more important, and something you should put in sooner than later.
Well, I have to just give you a little personal feedback, not about your product, but when the virus lockdown happened in Palo Alto, of course, my event business went immediately, and I started looking at setting up payment systems for some online training. And oh my gosh, it like totally, even though I use WordPress and have been doing for many years, uh, it totally stretched my capacity. I'm not a developer, but I do love working with code, and it I have to say there were days when I just had to put it away because my brain wouldn't work properly. So I give great credit to you guys that you're actually building a service like that, because gee, if I could have turned around and said to someone, just put it in for me, make it easy. Oh gosh, I was so desperate at times. So it is really challenging, particularly if you've got different payment systems that you want to include. So good work, you. And you talked about the crisis. So, how has that been building your startup while the crisis was happening, the lockdowns?
Yeah, so it's kind of fascinating. Like, I think, until the summer, I hadn't met half of my team ever in face to face. So we built the entire company during COVID from scratch.
Wow.
So I
Wow.
think, the virus for me gave me a big chance to think about stuff. I had a lot more personal time, as it were, to actually sit down and think about how to do things right. So that's one thing that came from it. But
Great.
I think for us, I've always never been a big fan of commuting, and it kind of accelerated my thinking about how to build a company. And we just said, look, from day one, we're going to be a remote first company. So we have a view. You should be able to work from where you want to work from, on the times a day you need to work, and we will get the best out of you if you are happy and living your best life. And that's working great for us. I mean, we have people all over North America, all over Europe. We have people in Argentina. We have people in other parts of the world. And it doesn't really matter, because everything we built around the company, I hate to use the word culture, but the way that we operate as a company, the tools we built are all around assuming people aren't going to be in the same office. And we're attracting amazing talent from big companies, frankly, of people who just don't want to go back to an office anymore. They like working from where they decided to work from during COVID, and we give them the freedom to do that.
So much has changed with the great resignation and, yeah, remote work, and life will never be the same again. The wonderful thing, like you're saying, is that incredible integration globally. Instead of feeling like you're in a little bubble in Silicon Valley, it's now really the world. And people have been even leaving the Bay Area because they can work anywhere now. So it's remarkable, the positive side of what was sort of a huge tragedy initially. So
Yeah, no, and I think it's helping to redistribute some of the intelligence of the country all being like squeezed into one place, and now people are
yes.
going back to where they come from, and I think that's only good for the future.
Yeah, definitely. Let's there's talent everywhere. It's not just in Silicon Valley.
Exactly.
So I was wondering if you could give me an idea of obviously you've had lots of time to think and working on your startup. What do you think's coming now in the future? Obviously now countries are saying that they're going to have to learn to live with COVID, and obviously all the changes that have happened around and because of the crisis. What's your sense about, obviously your focus is on on payments and digital world. What's your like prediction about how things are going to go?
Well, I think, I mean, they're gonna look. It's already going six times faster than we everyone predicted because of this crisis. I think like a huge movement to digitalization, which is going across all parts of internet, we should call it, but specifically in commerce. I think for us that, if you're moving everything to the cloud, then you need something that works in the cloud like Gravy. But I think that's going to continue at this accelerated pace. I think what else is happening, which is fascinating, is the amount of payment types. And again, once again, this year it looks like the usage of credit cards and debit cards is going down. The increase of other payment types like wallets. We've seen the emergence of open banking finally in Europe. We're starting to see grumblings of that over here in the US. We've got these interesting other ways of paying coming from all parts of the world, particularly Asia. And I think it just suddenly got a lot more complicated to be a retailer. I think you said earlier when you were working on WordPress, but
Mm,
all these what were sort of domestic retailers are all becoming international because they have to.
mm,
And by coming international, you have to cater for an international audience or for your local audience. And that means you are going to be supporting a lot more payment types because that's how those people like to pay.
yeah.
So I think life is getting more complicated from a retailer because consumers are getting more demanding on how they like to shop.
And so more demand for gravy, right?
That's the plan, yeah.
Fabulous. That's fabulous. Well, I'm so glad that this is a success that's come out of the crisis, and hopefully a continuing success from the looks of things. And yeah, I wish you all the best, and hope the company continues to grow and establish itself internationally.
No, thank you very much.
And hopefully, we'll have you on the show somewhere down the line to get an update report.
Of course, I'd love to. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, John.